I'm Allison Fay. I'm with the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center, and I also serve on the Child Abuse Prevention Council of Anoka County. Every year, the Child Abuse Prevention Council, or the CAPC, puts on an event in April to help educate community members about how to keep kids safer. This year, we decided to do it also on video. So welcome to It Just Takes One, a video that gives you information about child abuse prevention. It's our hope that if all of us as individuals can take time to educate ourselves on prevention, we can use each of our voices together, united, to help create a safer world for our kids. So we're going to start by learning about child abuse and what the community's responsibility is in reporting.
Child abuse is the treatment by anyone responsible for that child's care, however brief. Could be just a non-paid babysitter all the way up to a parent, a guardian. It could be a teacher, a coach, anybody who has interaction with a child and is responsible for that child at any point during that child's life, causes injury to that child. And not only physical injury, but emotional injury, psychological injury, and injury through neglect. In other words, not giving that child what's necessary, food, clothing, shelter, some emotional care that's needed. All these can result in an injury to a child and prevent that child from growing up in today's society with some sort of a normal foundation.
Child abuse impacts public health by families or individuals that have felt that there's no other resources or strategies to utilize with their children or family members, which then with that could increase or does increase the level of crime, the difficulties with child development, difficulties with growth and development for kids and educational development.
The types of child abuse that are defined in the law are, number one, physical abuse, of course, that's fairly obvious. After that, there's an emotional type of abuse, calling injury or neglect. There is sexual abuse of children. Those are the types of child abuse, I guess, that fall within the broad definition that the statute is trying to direct actions toward. A mandated reporter is any person who is responsible for the child's care, however brief. They may be in a position of authority over the child, or they may be like a coach, a babysitter. The statutory definition talks about anybody in child care, law enforcement, probation services, education, in the healing arts is the way the statute phrases it. Anybody who has coming in contact with that child and who notices the abuse that is going on is required by law to make the report to the authorities. Now, stepping aside and looking at it a little broader, the idea behind mandated reporting is to have those people who are dealing with the children become the eyes and ears of the authorities. They are the people who are dealing with the child, seeing that child in that situation and realizing something is just not right in that particular child. And the law says those people that are dealing with them and realize the person who is doing the abuse is somebody the child might not tell on, and most likely will not tell on. So we are asking that people who are dealing with the children be the voice of that child and speaking up on that child's behalf by reporting the abuse to the authorities.
As far as reporting to child protection, the approaches now with that is really to access community resources, to maintain families, keep them together if at all possible, through resources and visiting and services with the entire family in order to assist them in becoming more self-sufficient and utilizing positive strategies with their children.
The law does provide immunity for someone who makes a child abuse report in good faith. Anyone can make a child abuse report as long as it's done in good faith. And what do I mean by good faith? Well, if you've got the interest of the child at heart and you make that report, that is considered good faith. You are immune, you cannot be sued for the report that you made, you cannot be prosecuted. Only if you are making the report for another reason. For example, you've had a dispute with that particular person you're reporting on and you want to get back at them, pretty obvious. That's not good faith. But if you're doing it on behalf of the child, then you will be protected under the law. I think a very good question for people who are wanting to report is their concern is, will I split up a family? The focus of the law today is to not split up families. The focus of the law is to ultimately reunite children with their families, but to do it in a situation where the children will thrive. Occasionally, children may have to be pulled out of a home, but when they are pulled out of the home, social services is working actively with that family and with that child to work on those problems that have caused the initial situation so that those problems can be remedied and that the families can be reunited. The state doesn't want to raise children. That's the job of the parents. The state steps in when it's necessary to take those children out of a situation and get the guidance, the counseling that those families need, and then reunite the families.
We're going to now talk about child protection. What happens when a call is made and the variety of services available to families.
Child protection in Minnesota now, we are very strength-based. We work with families, we engage with families, we make every effort to try and work with them together. We focus on the safety of children and how families can strengthen the safety they already have in their homes. Also, we work, a lot of times, we try really hard to work with families voluntarily rather than involving the court system and provide services to enhance family stability. When an average person calls into child protection, they're going to reach what we call as a screener. The screener will take the person's information, try and get information about the family, what's going on, what the concerns are. They'll also try and get some strengths from the caller so that if it reaches the level to go out and meet with the family, they have some strengths that they can work to build on. When that call comes in, the screener will make a decision as to whether or not it meets our criteria for an investigation or a family assessment, and also whether or not it would be referred to our parent support outreach program. Those are calls where it doesn't meet criteria to open a case. However, it's a preventative service that we offer to families that are possibly struggling. And if it does meet criteria for an investigation, a social worker would be making contact with the family. When a person calls our agency, and when we determine whether or not a call meets criteria for the case to be screened, we follow state guidelines that the entire state follows. If a case meets criteria, 70% of our cases go the family assessment track, which again is a very strength-based track that is engaging families. There is not a maltreatment finding, and a worker will go out, meet with the family, and assess what needs are for services to keep kids safe. 30% of our cases that we accept for an investigation go the investigation track. There is a maltreatment finding throughout that investigation. However, a lot of our cases end up opening voluntarily or ultimately end up closing without a finding of maltreatment, depending on what is found out.
Being involved with child protection and the case that I had, I've felt as it was a blessing to me because it provided me with knowledge of what's healthy and what's unhealthy in a family environment. Child protection was able to strengthen my family with a lot of programs that they had accessible to me. And the support that they provided. When I was a child, my mother was involved with a child protection case, so we were supposed to say, you know, everything's okay, you know, and we didn't feel comfortable telling the honest truth about the situation in the family. When I came to child protection, I was pleading with them to help me because I had addiction problems and I needed the help, but I didn't know how to stop from doing what I was doing. And with my social worker, she suggested that treatment would be, you know, an option, and they would place my children with family members, and she just gave me a lot of stepping stones throughout my recovery. My parenting now is dramatically changed. It's done a 180. I know that when I was in my active youth, I was not a good mother. And now I look forward every morning to waking up and seeing their smile, and it makes me feel blessed to have them. Child protection has also helped me with establishing a stable environment for my children. You know, before I didn't know where to begin, and now with their help, they have made me understand what the true meaning of family is.
I would encourage people, if they are worried about a child or family falling through the cracks, to please call social services. We have a lot of services that we can offer families, whether it's mandated or voluntary services. The screeners can also refer out to the community with possible resources. We have a family preservation program that will offer in-home family services. Again, parent support outreach can also offer community services. So yes, please call. Child protection is here to help to keep kids safe and to enhance families, to enhance and strengthen families.
And now we're going to talk to two members of the Child Abuse Prevention Council of Anoka County and how that particular group works to keep kids safe.
The Anoka Child Abuse Prevention Council is made up of a variety of human service providers, community members, and local businesses. Our focus is on prevention and education for Anoka County, working to prevent child abuse.
Well, we've really moved from in the past doing awareness and education about the problem and the scope of the problem, and we've added on to that as well the opportunity to educate the public on positive parenting and options to understand child development, to understand some of the things that go into creating a healthy environment for children. So really putting a lot of emphasis on that education piece. A lot of our education and efforts in the community have not only just defined the scope of the problem, but also offered ways that we can help prevent the problem.
We're trying to promote events that really engage community members, including parents and families. So if we can really connect with parents and families on ways that we can create safe avenues for them, I think we're creating and preventing child abuse, which helps keep the entire community safer.
The way that people could become a member or learn more about the Child Abuse Prevention Council is to go to the website for the Alliance for Violence-Free Anoka County, and that's www.violencefreeanokacounty.org, or they could call me, 763-422-7047. We meet on the second Tuesday of the month from 12 to 1:30 at the Northtown Library. We welcome community members. We want more parents to be members. We appreciate and value a parent's voice at the table.
I think families inherently want safety for themselves and for their children, and I think there's just barriers in place that are preventing them from being able to fully live out what it is that they want. And so I think a world without child abuse might look like engaging those pieces that families are asking for so that they are equipped with the things that they need.
Children and families live in a community, and we need a caring community that wraps around. The idea of it just takes one person to reach out to a parent who's having a problem. It just takes one neighbor to come over and help out. And I think in the world without child abuse, all those people would be wrapped around the child and the family.
Child abuse prevention is a community responsibility. So we're going to talk to some different community agencies about how individuals have helped them in prevention efforts, as well as talk to business leaders about how they've gotten involved in child abuse prevention.
Actually, Connexus is deeply involved in the communities that we serve, and child abuse prevention is just one of them. We've been partnering with Anoka County and the Child Prevention Council for probably over a decade now. We've gotten involved in all kinds of things as far as events, contributing to different causes as it relates to child abuse. We service over 100,000 residential accounts, and that equates to a lot of children in our territory. So we look at it as a community energy partnership, We do sell energy, but we're also here to improve the communities that we serve.
Boston's has helped the Anoka County Child Abuse Prevention Council by selling pinwheels the month of April for $1, and the proceeds go to them. We also do Dine to Donates for them, where 10% of our sales on a certain day go to them.
Every year during Child Abuse Month, we work with the council and sponsor a high-end speaker that comes in and works with local professionals and community as a whole. It's open to the community where parents can come in and hear from professionals in the industry, not just Minnesota, but across the country, on how we can maybe even break the cycle of child abuse education, but really how do we move forward, how do we learn about child abuse to make this world a better place.
So one way that community members have been involved in prevention for our agency, for the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center, is we have now partnered with Gunderson Health Systems, which is a hospital in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and we are now a program of the hospital because the hospital is looking at how they can raise healthier children. And one way of doing that with Gunderson is to help train pediatricians, to help create a no-hit zone so that no one is hitting children in the hospital, to give parents and caregivers other ways to help discipline children in a positive, proactive way. The hospital is looking at the adverse childhood experiences research that shows that when bad things happen to children, it can affect their health for their whole life. And so health systems are getting involved in prevention as a way of helping grow healthier adults.
You know, Connexus is not only deeply involved in the community when it comes to financially supporting them, but we also encourage our employees to get involved in the communities that we serve. If we all serve, it's a better community. For over a decade now, we've had a couple or several employees that have been a part of the Child Abuse Council, and we expect to continue that as this goes. But again, not only is it important that as corporations we get involved, it's to get our employees involved in the communities that we serve.
A world without child abuse would ensure happy homes for our kids. They'd be able to thrive in the school environment and in the community, and I think it would be an amazing thing for our community for these kids to reach their full potential.
Alexandra House has a representative on the Child Abuse Council because domestic and sexual violence doesn't just impact adults. Domestic violence impacts everybody, and that includes kids. And kids are a very important part of our future here in Anoka County and in every single community. And so it's very important that Alexandra House have a very active role in preventing child abuse as well.
Anoka, Washington County Head Start's involved in child abuse prevention because we care about the kids and families that we serve. These are families that are in our community and we want happy, healthy kids.
You know, there are many large corporations and small businesses in Anoka County, and I just encourage everybody to get involved. The businesses can make an impact, but also the employees that can make an impact. Again, this is about child abuse, this is about our future, but don't just limit it to that. Get involved in the communities that we serve. It will make this a better place.
My brother's abuser, it was his mom's boyfriend. He was playing a video game and he was crying, so he punched him in the head. He was abused when he was 7 months old. He has a traumatic brain injury. He had a stroke. He had multiple surgeries on his brain to relieve the pressure in his brain. He had multiple eye surgeries. He's not able to see out of the left side of both of his eyes, and he doesn't have use of his left arm. His left leg is weaker than his right leg, so he has a brace on his leg. So with the money that we raised for him, they were able to buy him a special needs adaptable bike. Those are really expensive. And among many other things that they need, he needs one-on-one care all the time. I would challenge other businesses in the county to get involved with child abuse prevention because it's personal and kids are counting on us.
Some of the strongest voices in prevention are those of survivors. We always want to take time to honor their stories and learn from what has happened to them so that hopefully we can break the cycle in our own families. At the Jacob Wetterling Resource Center, we spend a lot of our time helping caregivers learn about how to have the safety talk. You know, we teach classes for folks, we have conversations, we help model this type of behavior because we want kids to walk around smart and not scared. And a part of that is making sure that the adults in their life have this information. The number one question that I get from parents is, how do I talk to this about this with my child without scaring them to death. I hear that everywhere I go. And we treat it just like any other kind of safety. With fire safety, we don't tell children what a 3rd-degree burn feels like on their body. You know, we say, if someone's playing with matches, come and let me know. And it's the same thing with personal safety. We don't have to get into the worst case scary stories, but we can still say, you know what? I want you to check first before you get into a car with anybody. I want you to check first before you go into anybody's house. Doesn't matter if you know them or not. And if someone's trying to get you to do something with you without checking first, take 2 giant steps back away from them and come and find me right away. So that we can make it accessible for kids and we can practice those types of behaviors and help them understand. We want kids to remember most grown-ups want them to be safe. And so part of this is helping empower the children to pick the adults in their life who they want to go to if they have a problem, and know that if one of the people on their list is acting in a way that's asking them to break their rules or is doing something that makes them, their gut instinct feel like something's wrong, that they have more grown-ups they can go to for help. We don't want any child to not be surrounded by a safety net of caring adults.
When I hear the phrase or the term of "it only takes one," it harkens me back to the power of one individual to make a difference. When I think about Gandhi, when I think about Dr. King, when I think about Rosa Parks, when I think about Mother Teresa, when I think about Nelson Mandela, these were individuals who were able to rally others through their own individual courage and ability to stand up against incredible odds to make change, not just for themselves, but for whole societies, and I would even argue for humanity itself. And so we can never underestimate the power of one voice to make a difference. And when we talk about, you know, child abuse, that sentiment even is magnified that much more, because we can make a child's life better, which ultimately makes adults' lives better. And so that ripple effect brings us to a point that we can actually create a better world just by standing up and saying something in the face of injustice and things that we see or think that are wrong.
One easy way that parents and caregivers can start talking about personal safety is to do a family safety night. We suggest at minimum doing them twice a year, maybe at the beginning and the end of the school year, and use that time to talk about all things safety. So at the same time that you're talking about why it's important to wear your bike helmet and, you know, why we should wear seat belts, things like that, we also talk about personal safety, about body safety, about online safety. So it just becomes like any other safety. And your child knows that they can go to you if they have problems. And if we tell kids early on that you are there if they ever have a problem where they're feeling scared or unsafe, that helps build that bridge for children to discuss when someone is doing something that makes them feel afraid.
I believe that the community's role in child abuse prevention is one that requires each and every one of us to be vigilant and to actually help families become better at raising their children. The phrase, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, that's a great sentiment. I would suggest that it takes individuals who care about other individuals to raise a child. And one of the things we have to recognize is that parents oftentimes are doing the best they can with what they have, whether they're in a system of poverty, whether they're facing, you know, adverse childhood experiences themselves. They've suffered from abuse, and we typically replicate ourselves. And so in those generational situations, it requires that all of us give our best attention to those folks and know that they're doing the best that they can, and that what they are doing is inadequate for the challenges ahead. And I think that all of our parents did the best they could, and that even with the best advice, they were inadequate in helping us to shape and frame a future that they had no awareness of. And so as we operate as a community, it's important that we look at each and every member as a brother and a sister, as a son and a daughter, and we take responsibility for those folks, not to shut them down, not to blame them, not to, you know, report them to the authorities with the hope that something bad will happen to them, but to know that authority and social services are tools that can actually be used to help families make better choices and guide the growth of our community in some very positive ways.
I'm Michael, and I was abused as a child from 12 to 16, and I'm here to prevent any other kids being abused. My mom asked him to take more time with us because she knew that the scout leader was cared about us. So he did lots of things with me. He took my brother Dave places, my brother Scotty places, and he eventually abused all three of us. And if I would have been able to tell the first time, maybe nothing would have happened to them. All I could do is tell my brothers, be careful of him.
Well, what happened to me was I was abused by a family friend, a very, very close family friend, and a man who happened to be my father's employee. My father was his boss. And I was first abused. The abuse started when I was 9 and continued till I was about 15, 16 years old. What I wish someone would have done, there was nobody that did anything for me when I was young. What I wish someone would have done would be to talk to me about what possibly could have happened. When I was abused, there was absolutely hardly any awareness and certainly a lot of denial about such a thing happening. And I would have liked to have identified to somebody, a family member or friend, who understood what had happened to me and to help advocate for me. Because I didn't say anything for many years. I stuffed it inside, feeling I wouldn't be believed, first of all, and secondly, that I would destroy my family and the community my family lived in and the friendship that my family had with my abuser. The reason I'm involved is that I feel like we do a lot now, not so much then, to tell kids, to tell and keep telling somebody till you find somebody that listens. But what worries me today is that, and what worried me then was by the time it turned into what it turned into, I didn't feel like I could say anything. And what I worry about today is that there's kids, I think, are better about learning to say, but I worry that parents or adults or anybody is going to be like, I don't want to be the person that rocks the boat if that's not true. It's a very uncomfortable discussion to have. I think also that family members and others are in a great state of denial. They're not willing to accept the fact that a family member would do that to another family member, or a close family friend would do that to a family member. In my head, I knew my parents were never going to say, what? But I kept hearing, how did it turn into that? Because they thought he was taking me and treating me and taking me camping and going to the Y, and I didn't say when it turned different. What can families do to help would be, well, one is to notice some signs of child abuse. I was astounded, and still am to this day, that my folks didn't notice a change in my behavior, particularly when my abuser was around. And my folks, of course, not knowing anything, I could understand how they didn't notice, but how could they have not have noticed, you know, on the other hand. So I think if you do notice some sort of change in behavior, some discomfort with a child around somebody, I think it's an opportunity to say, you know, hey, you know, what's going on? And open that up. Me having been abused myself, I found it easier to talk to my daughters about it because I want to break the chain. I wanted to break the chain a long time ago. When we want the child to respond better to the adult, we need to teach adults to maybe take a breath and say, let's figure this out. Instead of thinking, oh my God, I don't want to talk about it, I don't know who to tell, I'm kind of nervous, I know those parents and they're not going to, I just think maybe the kids need to know that it's soaked in, and that maybe, I just think for me it would have helped if they said, let's just figure this out. Why is prevention so important to me? It's because it's a devastating thing. It destroys lives. It really does. The thing is that it's with you your whole life. It changes how you cope with things. It changes how you think about yourself. Your self-esteem is destroyed. Your relationship with people, my being close to people, particularly physically, is very difficult, even to this day, because I fear what had happened to me. I replay it in my mind. So it destroys a person, and it's a long path back to recovery. And so it's something that has to be stopped now.
Offenders do look for children who haven't had any information about how to keep their bodies safe. Kids who don't know the name for their private parts, kids who may have never had this conversation. They sort of test boundaries to see if they can get away with certain behaviors. And so we do need to work on hardening the target and giving children information that they can use to help keep them safe. But on the same note, it's not up to a 5-year-old child to protect themselves from the world around them. It's a kid's job to be a kid, and it's the grown-up's job to keep them safe. So we can teach a 5-year-old the names of their private parts. That we talk about the fact that the only time anyone would ever need to touch their private parts is to keep them clean and healthy, like bathing or diapering. But when that happens, we're always allowed to talk about it. Anyone asking us to keep secrets about touches or not tell anyone about touches, or is touching us in a way that we don't know if it's a clean and healthy touch, if we're not sure, we can always talk to one of our 5 adults, because it's better to get that information and to make sure that we're talking about it than to feel like we're trapped or that we're in a situation in over our head. So we want to give children as much leeway as we can to give them the information and to have these ongoing conversations. Whenever we teach a safety rule with the child, we always follow it up with a couple of what ifs to make sure the child really gets it. Because you could say something like, in our family, we don't keep secrets, so one of our safety rules, if someone asks you to keep a secret from mom or dad or the person taking care of you, let us know about it. And then you follow it up with, well, what if we're at a family reunion and someone tries to give you a secret present? What would you do? And so that you can get the sense if your child understands the rule or not by different scenarios. When they're younger, those what ifs have to be very concrete and in the moment. You know, what if right now at Valley Fair we get separated? And as they get older, they can be, you know, not as specific. What if you're at a party and someone starts doing something that makes you feel scared or confused? So the what ifs help young people get empowered in this world around them, and it helps increase the communication between the children and the caregiver. Because our #1 prevention tool is caring and connected adults.
So we can look at governmental systems like social workers and police officers as resources that can actually help families make better choices and give them resources to move beyond places that as individuals they may not have been able to do themselves. So if more of us look at mentoring and tutoring and take those responsibilities as our own, whether it's a paid position in a formal organization or not, but we see all of these children in our community as our own children, we'll also start to see that these adults in our community are adults that are our brothers and sisters as well.
Thank you for taking the time to learn about child abuse prevention. It is our hope that with these resources and information, you'll feel empowered to make a difference for kids. It just takes one to start a positive ripple effect. So let your light shine for kids. Abuse exists in the shadows. If we all shine our lights on this problem, we can remove the secrecy and shame and start having the important conversations. So shine on.
Oh, 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 this little light of mine. Said I'm gonna let it shine. Said this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Said this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.